Hi guys, it's Kev here, or Beer Hunter from Shoot Forum, and by popular request I'm going to show you how I sharpen my knives using the Lansky kit today. I'm not suggesting for a moment that this is the very best way, but it's what works for me and what works for me very quickly. I'm going to show you the full process from a dull blade. This is just a very cheap locking knife that I use for rough tasks around the farm, and there's just no edge on it at all. So I'm actually going to completely reprofile this. Normally when I'm sharpening I'm just touching up an edge and it just takes a few moments. This will take a bit longer because we're going to go through the entire process completely reprofiling the edge. So, cheap knife. I'll show you, this is the Lansky kit, which consists of a set of instructions, a vise to hold the blade, a set of stones which go from rough to very smooth. I actually have some additional stones here, which is ultra coarse, which we'll be using, and this is a stone for a serrated blade, or I actually use it for sharpening knife hooks. Works very well. So those are the stones that we'll be using. The guide rods I'll get to in a moment. We need some honing oil, of course. And I also have an additional Lansky attachment which attaches to the desk and pulls the vise. Makes the job much easier indeed. Let's make sure you can see all that. Okay. The other things I'll be using are a jeweler's loupe. Now this is essential as far as I'm concerned. You need to be able to see the condition of the edge and make sure that, especially when you're reprofiling, that you've reached the very edge of the blade. Often you see people sharpening, and especially when reprofiling, and they just take a chamfer off and then polish that chamfer. They never get anywhere close to the very edge itself. So that's essential. And then to finish it off, a leather strop. If you want to get the finest edge, you need a leather strop. So, let's get started. Take the blade, make sure you're using the flat of the blade somewhere. Try and get the knife roughly in the middle of the vise, so the angles don't change too much. Just nip it with the front attachment. Front screw, and then tighten it with the rear one. Now you want to make sure that the gap in here is pretty much parallel, otherwise it's only going to be grabbing part of the blade and it will move around when you're sharpening. That will change the angles and completely ruin the sharpening process. So, another important point people don't realise is you need to set up stones correctly with the guide rods. These are the guide rods. And you see a lot of people just chucking these things in and tightening them up anywhere. That will give you varying degrees of angle when you're changing between the stones, and won't give you good results. The way to do it is set it on a desk, loosen it off, make sure everything's flat, and then tighten it up. And you do that for every stone. In fact, I use the same guide rod for every stone. And we'll get good results. Next we're going to flush off this stone. Just to get all the metal particles out. And if you'll excuse me for 2 seconds, I'm going to run through the kitchen and get some kitchen towel to wipe the excess off. Okay. So now we've got a nice clean stone, and just give it a touch of oil. Doesn't need much. Now on the Lansky system you have a set of holes up here where you can choose the angle that you want to sharpen to. It goes from 17 degrees down here, which is really used for very fine blades, razor blades, that sort of thing, all the way up to 30 degrees for very rough chopping type purposes. This one I'm going to use at 20 degrees because it's quite a small blade, and can be used for relatively fine details. So let's put that in. Degrees. Now you have to also make sure that the stone is going to be able to clear the vise here. In this case it does just. If not, we'll have to move the blade further out. Let's have a look at that. Oh, another quick point. If you're just resharpening a blade you've already sharpened, one thing you can do is use a marker just along the very edge of the edge, and then you can check that the angle that you're touching the blade up at is exactly the same as the one that's been sharpened before, because you will just remove the marker. In this case it isn't, it's been sharpened what looks like 25 degrees before. Yes, it's 25 degrees. So this is completely reprofiling this blade down to 20 degrees. I'll just check the angle, make sure you guys can see still. Here we go. Okay, now a lot of people say you should only sharpen in the one direction like this. I don't believe that, especially with the rougher ones. You can use quite a lot of pressure and you can go in both directions. The stone removes material in both directions. As I'm reprofiling the blade, I won't worry too much about the number of passes I do per side with the rough stones. I'll have a look through the jeweller's loop and make sure that the edge is even. Now this seems quite a soft steel, it's removing material very quickly. I'm just feeling to see if we're getting a burr yet. A burr is where the edge is beginning to curl over as it gets thinner towards the end. You'll get that on each side. Not yet. Okay, I'm just beginning to feel a bit of a burr there now. Incidentally, this is a extra coarse stone which is 70 grit, very rough indeed, removes material very quickly. Now I'm going to have a look at this through the loop and see if we're anywhere near the edge. And although it looks as if we are, from just taking your own eyes look at the edge, it's not quite. Now, still in some areas we're still on the original bevel in a couple of areas, so I'll take a bit more off. Just clean the stone, don't want too many metal particles in there. Okay, that's feeling much better now. Let's have a quick look. And yep, that's us at the edge all the way along. I'm also looking now just to make sure that the edge is centered completely. I haven't taken off more on one side than the other. And this looks pretty good to me. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. It's pretty good. So, we now come to change the next stone. You go down in each grade, so this is, as I say, a 70 grit. And we're going to go to the next roughest, which is a 120. set up exactly the same way as before, against the desk, and tighten. Clean the stone off, and in the same hole. With each finer stone I'm using, I'll use slightly less pressure than the one before. And after each stoning, make sure you use your loop and have a look through. Make sure that that stone has cut all the way to the edge. And this one hasn't quite yet. So there can be, because of the Lansky system, you do have some variance in the stones, the thickness of the stones, etc., etc. So you need the loop. Double check everything. And there we go, that one has now cut all the way to the edge. So, same again, change stones from the 120. Next I'm using 280. You don't need to spend too long on any of these stones, and none of these stones I would use when I'm doing standard sharpening. You just don't need anything this rough. You don't want to take off too much material if you can avoid it. Okay, already, I'm sure you won't be able to see this on the camera, but we have a decent edge forming there, and it's already sharper than many knives you see in people's pockets, and that's only, again as I say, with the 280 grit. Check the edge with the loop, and again we've cut right to the edges there, so I'm happy with that. I'll move on to the next stone. Next one in, from the 280 we go up to a 600. Now this is about the point where I would normally start sharpening. If I've already got a good blade that's been reasonably well cared for and I'm just giving it a touch up, I would probably start from the 600 grit. It's all it needs. So, if we were talking about the 5 minutes before on the forum, you can start timing me from now if you like. You can hear there already that the cutting action is much smoother. There's none of the grinding that you had with the previous stones. I'm still going in both directions with this stone. And that's already polishing the edge up quite nicely. One other thing, when you're using the Lansky here, there is a bit of up and down movement within the vise. I always make sure that I'm pushing down on the top here to maintain that angle against the bottom here. You don't want it rattling up and down because that will change the angle on the edge. that's looking good to the naked eye. Let's have a look under the loop again. And that looks pretty damn good to me. I'm also checking that the edge is still centered on the blade, and that looks perfect. That's getting really fairly sharp now. Next one I'm going from the 600 grit is to what Lansky call their ultra fine, which is 1000 grit. Set up as before against the desk. Clean the stone off. And these finer stones really don't need much in the way of oil at all. Now I'm really getting quite gentle with my strokes on here now. And that's a lovely sharp edge on there now. But check with the loop, make sure I've gone to the edge. And in this case it hasn't in a couple of spots. So I need to do it again. Okay, check it once more. Then that is looking good. Yep, that's nice all the way along. Now I'm going to move on to my final stone, which is one of these optional stones that you don't get in, I don't think, any of the kits. This is what they call their sapphire hone. This is, I've been told, between 2,000 and 3,000 grits, something like that, which is perfectly fine. And these are synthetic stones, so they're different in their gradings to natural stones. Okay, now there'll be very light pressure on this. And it's just nothing more than a final polish. I do finish off with one direction only. Going towards the tip of the blade. I find for some reason that seems to help the cutting. Very light strokes now, hardly touching it. Okay. How has that come out? Under the loop. And yes, it's not bad actually. I'm surprised how well this has come out for such cheap steel. And it's pretty sharp, yeah. Okay, so now we've finished with the stones. We can put this away. And the leather strop. Just needs maybe 20 passes per side, something like that. I start off on the strop with quite heavy pressure and gradually get lighter and lighter. And I have to say, for again a cheap blade, I'm sure you won't be able to see that on the camera. I don't know if you can see the edge at all, but it's beautifully polished. I certainly wouldn't run my finger down that. It should be sharp enough to shave hair. Again, no problem it is. So you can shave with that.